Happy Spiritual Sunday to you all, and welcome back for another lesson in the Kabbalistic wisdom based in the Zohar that are the universal laws of creation. Yes, the issue is, for many, is the idea that it's metaphysical, and that's not always easy to see. And that's why it takes a spiritually minded, an open-minded person to be able to grasp and accept and work with these teachings. And as the Rav and Karen always emphasized, the proof is in the pudding. So we don't ask you to just believe. We don't ask you to just blindly follow. At the same time, what we do ask is don't be closed-minded. Don't just dismiss some of this wisdom because it doesn't fit with your present paradigm. Because your present paradigm is what keeps your life the same old, same old. And even though a lot of it may be good, what you and I are learning from the true Kabbalists, what we learn from the Kabbalah Center and here on Spiritual Sunday, is how not to stay, even as good or nice or blessed as we are, because we know there's more that we've already been given that is up to us to make manifest through our behavior. And we cannot change our behavior if we don't open our minds to change consciousness. And so on that, let's do our affirmation, and then we'll read from Karen. So here to help boost right away our consciousness, to open our heart and soul more than it's been, let's say this together in unity. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. And so as we do most Sundays, we'll read from Karen's book, Simple Light. The job of spreading human dignity must be something each one of us advocates. We so quickly forget that the only way we can bring about peace is by being peaceful. We have the strength, we have the numbers, but more than that, we have the consciousness to take this energy back to our communities and to talk to people about using peace instead of physical might, to focus on food, shelter, and education instead of building bombs. Your job and my job are the same: to spread the idea of human dignity and kindness to each and every person in everything we do. The Zohar explains that we will finish the job in one of two ways: either in a big ball of fire, or when each person loves his neighbor so that we all will know the glory of the Creator. And so I'd like to share with you something probably most of us don't really think about or hadn't thought about. It's a very deep concept, but at the same time, it's very empowering. Because as we'll grasp this concept, it's a huge shift of consciousness. And as we just affirmed, consciousness is everything, and it's the only way we can improve not only our own individual lives, but also the lives of the world. So let's start with some fundamentals. It's always good, even if you've heard it 1,000 times, it always helps to hear it 1,000 or more times over. The light of the Creator is infinite, it's eternal. The light of the Creator is infinite, it's eternal. So of course, it seems like, well, sure, that's a given fact. But do you realize consciously that that means that life, our soul, our true self, is also eternal? We have already been given eternal life because there's a piece of that infinite light, infinite life force that fills our soul. So our true self is already immortal. We came here into this world to emulate the Creator. And so we want to ask, if we're already immortal, where does death originate? In the endless, we were created as a soul, a container, and the Creator gave us, shined into this soul, shared its light with our one soul. And our job, because we are already filled with this light, source of eternal blessings and eternal life, our job is to make it manifest by emulating the Creator in order to make it felt, experienced, manifest. In other words, you and I understand that if it's just given to us, we can feel it, so to speak, inside. We can feel the potential. We can feel the light. We can feel the power and that sense of eternal blessings. But we have yet to experience it. That necessitated us to emulate the Creator, to create a vessel, as the Creator did, and then shine our light into it. So you and I, collectively as one, we decided to create a space where we could act like the Creator, because we needed to find an empty vessel, an empty space, so to speak, an empty container to be able to shine our light into it. In the endless, we were all essentially full, not manifesting the light through our efforts, but we were full. So we are the ones, and this is probably the first step of that deep concept, because we've been so brainwashed to think the opposite. We created this physical universe. We caused the Big Bang and the creation of what we call our physical world, physical universe, in order that we could perceive, even though technically it's not true, it's an illusion, but we created this world to be able to perceive emptiness, where we'd have the ability to shine our light. In order to make it truly fulfilling, though, to, quote, play this game of life, we had to create an opponent. Think about it. If you, whatever game you play, if you played tennis and there was no opponent on the other side, so you just keep hitting the ball over the net, you win. Or sometimes we used to use the idea of a magic golf club. If you had a magic golf club and all you had to do was touch the golf ball and whoosh, no matter how far or whatever, hole in one. So you'd walk around the course, touch the ball, hole in one. Pick up the ball, go to the next hole, hole in the next tee, hole in one, hole in one. So great. At first it might seem exciting. Wow, nobody on earth has done that before. But after a little while, would you really be happy? Would you maintain that sense of accomplishment? No, because you didn't put any effort. You didn't have any opposition that you had to overcome. So to actually feel the blessing, to actually feel that lasting fulfillment, we had to create an opponent. Again, we created it. And because of the time we're in, the 21st century, I like to explain it as the original AI program. Because it's not us, it's artificial. We implanted it, so to speak, in our brain, in our heads, but it's not us. It's a great imitation. Your AI program, the opponent, that opposition, sounds like your voice. Mine in my head sounds like my voice. But it's not you, it's not me, because it's not a piece of the Creator. It's our creation in this physical world. And just in case some of you are still thinking, no, the Bible says God created this and you learned it in your religion or whatever, etc. Like we know here, the Zohar says the 5 books of Moses is true physically. There were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and Moses and all of that. At the same time, it's coded so that we, in this way we're speaking now, would have to make a greater effort to overcome, if you will, the illusion of contradiction. If you only look at the 5 books of Moses literally, a lot of things, which I don't want to go into now, seem to contradict each other. So, as many people have done, just dismiss the book in whatever form. You and I are learning from the Zohar, which is the root, the seed of all the universal laws of spirituality, metaphysics, universal, that have manifested, if you will, took on the body of the 5 books of Moses. Like you and I, we're a soul and we're covered in a body. So the opponent, that AI program, was created by us to influence us to do the opposite. In other words, an opponent, if you play tennis, the person on the other side of the net is there to oppose you winning the point. Oppose you being able to hit the ball back over the net. So then in spiritual terms, that AI program that we programmed is there to tempt us in the moment we have an opportunity to shine our light and emulate the Creator by shining light outward from us. It's there to tempt us, give us justification and all the good reasoning why we should not shine our light out, but actually attempt to get from outside and bring it in. What in simple terms we call the desire to receive for myself. To receive. No. The only reason we left the endless world was to be able to share our light. Receiving it we had already done in the endless world. And one last point, if we understand the light of the Creator is infinite and eternal, then it can only create something that's truly eternal, our soul. This physical world, as we spoke 2 weeks ago, is not eternal. It's here by our creation for a certain amount of time to play the game of life, and I don't mean to make it less than or inconsequential. It's very impactful. We're here to emulate the Creator and manifest all the blessings that the Creator gave us in the endless world, but manifest them through our efforts. But there is a limited time, which we spoke about 2 weeks ago. Now, this AI program that keeps taunting us, keeps giving us, or our soul technically, gives us, if we make a mistake and we give in to the AI program, it's like losing to the opponent. So it gets points we have to overcome those amount of points. So our soul keeps giving us more and more opportunities to correct the mistake we made. And that will happen over and over and over and over again until we get it right. Meaning to share our light instead of trying to get some sense of fulfillment from the outside in. And that's why when you look at your life objectively, we all can see the same repetitive challenge. The disguise is different. Maybe once it's at work, once it's at home, once it's out on the street, once in the stores, whatever. Once it's with something going on in the world, whatever cover it will take. But when we look at it fundamentally, it's the same challenge to our fear, anger, jealousy, greed, judgment, insecurity, guilt, shame, whatever, over and over. That's what the Kabbalists called tikkun, which means to correct. We have to correct the mistakes we made. And it'll happen again and again and again, over and over and over. And even we teach lifetime to lifetime. It's carried over until we do it right. Now, this AI program, it has many names. It's called many names. Again, another way to give us an opportunity not to see it or to look at it as multiple things. I don't even want to say entities. It's called the opponent. We call it the opponent. It's often called the evil inclination. It's called Satan. And as a reminder, Satan, the devil, is just a false identity of this AI program. The word is actually Aramaic, Satan, an adversary, a challenger, an opponent. It's also called sometimes the other side or other gods. There's one God, and then there's the false gods. Now, why is it, if the light is infinite, and it's the source and the only source of eternal lasting blessings, why is it that you and I and people around the world can experience chaos, pain, suffering, sadness, poverty, illness, all the, quote, bad things? How can we be confused like that if the light is infinite? Because we have disconnected ourselves from the light of the Creator. How? Giving into that AI program. Giving away our light, so to speak, meaning by actions of anger, jealousy, ego, fear, greed, judgment, guilt, shame, etc. Reactive behavior covers our light, does not let our light shine out into the world, and therefore take away the darkness, take away the chaos, pain, suffering, illness, discord, etc. So, darkness, to make it clear, darkness is simply light covered up. So when we perceive darkness, it's technically, metaphysically, it's just a thin veil that's hiding light. And that's why we learn that wherever we see or experience darkness, it's just our soul's light and the blessings that that light can manifest for us, hidden by that thin veil. But it's the light waiting for us to reveal it. It's the light waiting for us to defeat that opponent in that moment and act like the light instead of like the opponent. So where's the angel of death come into all this? We go back to the story of the Garden of Eden. The first iteration of our experience in this physical universe as we left the endless world. We manifested, in essence, heaven on earth. We made a place called the Garden of Eden, Nirvana, whatever name you want to give it, so that we would be able to understand this is why we came into this world. To experience what we were seeing, but in a similar way, but now on a more, what we call 1% physical material way. We were experiencing in a sense of, a taste of, if you will, what we had in the endless world. Endless world, we are a soul filled with the light of the Creator. So we could feel that energy of total fulfillment. So here in the Garden of Eden, you and I, because one soul came into this world, one container with the light of the Creator, and then if you read the Bible carefully, that one being was split then into Adam and Eve, two beings, because we had to be able to have some way to share, right? Because that was our purpose. Find an empty space where we could share our light. So now, we at least have the experience and the awareness that there is a heaven on earth, that there is the potential for that 100% eternal bliss. Now, remembering that this AI program that we put there, we often speak about it in the center, or I speak about it sometimes here, that it's really, in essence, we create that opponent like you do if you play sports. You, in essence, you choose a coach. Even, forget sports, even it can be a mentor. You choose a physical teacher, somebody who will challenge you to draw your potential from only potential to actuality. Your capabilities, not only physically as an athlete, sports, what about science, math, other subjects that you want to be better at? You hire somebody, a coach, to draw that potential out. So they're there to challenge you to be better. My tennis coach, he was my coach, he was on my side. But to help me, he needed to challenge me to improve, draw from within, to improve the manifestation of my tennis abilities, potential. So you take a bucket of balls and hit them one after the other to my backhand, my weaker stroke. Of course, from my point of view, especially back then, a little frustrated, a little bothered, because it wasn't so easy. I had to be better, I had to focus more, I had to concentrate, etc. But he was there for my good. So in a similar way, we created that AI program to help us manifest our potential, to draw it out, which means we have to be challenged. So in the Garden of Eden, as the code says, there were two trees, because you have to have free choice. The two trees, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, good and bad, gives us free will. Now we have to make a choice. Which one are we going to choose to connect with? Which one are we going to choose to act like? And there is that energy called, in biblical terms, the snake, the nachash. But it's just another term for that AI program of opposition. To taunt us, to get rather than to share. So without all the details, you can either study online, Kabbalah.com, or you can read from the Zohar, etc. But in essence, it was there to say, connect to the, or as it's called, eat of the tree of knowledge, good and evil, good and bad, which by its very name, when we think about it consciously, means chaos. The other tree was the tree of life, where everything is light. Everything can be seen as light. Like you and I are learning here. What is the essence of what we teach in the Kabbalah Center and what we teach here on Spiritual Sunday? How to perceive everything that comes to us, that we see, feel, touch, taste, whatever, as the light. And then to emulate the light, achieve what we came here to do by acting like the light, shining more light out of our soul till we're shining 100%. So here we had the choice, you and me, because we are Adam and Eve. We had the choice. Partake of, connect with the tree of knowledge, good and evil, where good will disappear into bad at some point, prosperity into lack, health into illness, love into its opposite, hatred, animosity, etc. Unity into divisiveness. Or we could connect with and hold on to the tree of life, where everything is just the light. And of course, we know the story. We lost to the snake. We lost to that opponent. We gave into our desire for that instant gratification of desire to see oneself alone, reactive behavior. And you tell me, if a person disconnects from the tree of life, what now are they experiencing? Death. The opposite of life in our world is death. Now, there's that bigger picture, let's say, death, as in a person, their soul leaving their physical body. But when you think about it, where does pain and suffering come from? Like we said, confusion, chaos, etc. When a person acts in a reactive getting way, seeking to receive, they are disconnecting from lasting whatever, health, love, protection, clarity, guidance. And therefore, that choice we made, and it is we, not them, we collectively made that choice to give in to the illusion, and therefore we manifested that first iteration of confusion, pain, suffering, and ultimately death. As the Bible in its coded way says, if God told Adam and Eve, if they eat from the tree of knowledge, good and evil, on that day they will surely die. So a lot of people say, well, but they ate and they lived almost 1,000 years. Yes, but life is eternal. The light in us is eternal. We were not meant to die. That's what we created in the choice of tree of knowledge, good and evil, over the tree of life. Therefore, from that moment forward, what's our correction, our tikkun? Every day, in every way, to reconnect the tree of knowledge, the physical, material world, to the tree of life. By choosing when our buttons are being pushed, when those reactive feelings are awakening, when that sense of lack, which is darkness, the lack of manifest light, that sense of darkness, those reactive feelings, when those come up, that's our job, to shine light, choose the tree of life. And we are given that opportunity every day, multiple times a day, when anyone or anything, doesn't even have to be somebody in your close personal environment. You could be watching the news and something goes on out there and all of a sudden, boom, your button's being pushed. You're feeling anger, fear, jealousy, hurt, judgment, whatever it is. There's your opportunity. There's your opportunity. To do what? Shine light into the darkness. Almost 40 years now, the most in the center, the most foundational thing and yet simplest thing that we have to be reminded over and over again. Light is the only thing that will take away darkness. There's nothing else in the physical universe, so how much more in the spiritual universe? Nothing else in the physical world will take away darkness except some form of light. It's not your money, your talents, your abilities, your, position in life, economically, politically, socially, whatever. Only light. Only light will take away darkness. So how much more then on a spiritual level? And this is why we want to keep in mind the power of the AI program fundamentally is separation, to create divisiveness. Because when a person acts reactively, listening to the voice of their opponent, they're going to act the opposite of the light. They're going to separate themselves from the tree of life, the light that's infinite all around us, even in this universe, though we don't always perceive it, but it's still infinite, to disconnect from that by choosing the instant gratification of the physical material world. Desire to see oneself alone, and therefore dividing, separating themselves to some extent from the 100% eternal blessings that are inside each one of us already. 100% light, source of all eternal lasting blessings. Now, want to put in your mind, as the Rav and Karen taught me, teaches us, we don't have to agree with everybody else. But like Karen said in what we read, human dignity. Our job is to act with human dignity because we are all one. As we speak about almost every Sunday here, spiritual internet. Even though there were Adam and Eve and they chose the chaos and we created the chaos by disconnecting from the tree of life. And then Adam and Eve had children, had children, had children. So on a spiritual level, there is none of us that are disconnected from each other because there's only one soul. So yes, it emanated out like the physical internet. It's in simple terms, it's one source and 8.5 billion people with a computer, phone, whatever mechanism are all connected and interconnected on that one internet. So it's to our advantage to act with human dignity, which means what? Remembering that there is an absolute exacting law of cause and effect. And therefore, when our buttons are being pushed, do we want to have, heaven forbid, more chaos? Or do we want to use the light to take away the separation from our soul, from the collective one soul? Do we want to be unified? And that's why we teach, when that button's being pushed, pause. Do you want to act with kindness? Do you want to act and have come back to you human dignity or inhuman dignity? What do you want? We are being given that opportunity every day, many, many different ways. And that's why it's when your button is pushed, pause, ask, what do I want to come back to me? What do I want to return through the law of cause and effect? And yes, I may not see it instantly. I know, though, with absolute certainty that whatever I put out into the cosmos will come back. When? Depends on my tikkun process. Depends on how much effort I've made, how much energy I put into it, how much a person has created those veils and curtains, the spiritual mud we often call it, that covers their soul and therefore hides their light from shining. So we may not be able to calculate, but we can know for sure. The more we're extending light into the darkness, the more we're acting light-like, it will come back to us. We're taking away some of the mud, more of our light is shining out into the world, taking away more of the chaos, pain, suffering, discord, poverty, lack, etc., and manifesting greater love and kindness, protection, prosperity, health, great relationships, peace, the blessings of the light. Now, so if you're getting it, it's understanding, where did the angel of death come from? In the Garden of Eden, there was an angel called the angel of life, that essence of life, because angels are manifestations of our words, thoughts, and actions. Because every word, thought, and action that we do is using the power of our soul to create. So we're constantly creating. I want to read you this from 200 years ago, Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin, as a reminder. The evil inclination, in its root, is an angel among the other angels on high, meaning it's an angel of light. His true task is to be an angel of life and not the angel of death. His purpose is to seduce and to be overpowered, meaning, yes, to be there when buttons are pushed, when we're feeling reactive. It's that AI program that taunts us to react instead of proact, to try and get rather than share light. His purpose is to seduce and to be overpowered, meaning that we will shine light into that darkness. The one who truly overpowers him merits eternal life. The one who transforms him into the angel of death by the reactive behavior, disconnect from the tree of life, which is available every moment because the light's infinite. The one who transforms him into the angel of death is the fool who listens to him. Understand then how enraged the evil inclination is against that person. In his root, he was meant to be the angel of life, but that person was foolish enough to listen to him, and he became the angel of death. And for this, he stands up in opposition to that person, becoming his bitterest enemy, meaning, as we know, it's all technology. So every time a person is reactive, they've given a point, so to speak, to the opponent. Now they've got to be challenged again, but their spiritual debt, as we call it, is another piece. It's more. And therefore the next challenge has to be stronger, because they have to make up not just one point, let's call it, but 2 or 3 or 4. Accordingly, the angel of death at his head is an angel of the angels on high, but his body was transformed into the angel of death by us. We were the ones who affected this transformation. We were the ones who affected this transformation. His death is our death. We brought death into the world. We made him into the angel of death. And therefore, you and I have the power, as we will hold this consciousness. We can transform the angel of death back into the angel of life. We can take him out of that position, but it's up to us. It's not up to anyone or anything else. This world is a manifestation of our words, thoughts, and action, because every word, thought, and action is the power of the Creator, the power of the light force, and therefore we are creating individually and collectively the state of this world. So when you look at the world, do not say, God did it. Why does God do this? Why isn't God changing it? The light is infinite and only infinite good. The light fills the universe. It shines 24/7, only goodness. It's we, as Rabbi Chaim Volozhin said, as we understand here from what we learn in the center, we're the ones who can transform, meaning use the light that's in our soul in a reactive way, which therefore will only create chaotic structures. And a chaotic structure can be instant gratification, what looks like health, wealth, position, fame, fortune, but it will be temporary because it's built on a foundation of opposite to why we came here. The antithesis of shining light, it's built from the mud of reactive, self-centered desire to see oneself alone. And therefore, if we have been able to create, use the power of the Creator to create chaos and discord and all the chaos in the world, then we have the power to change it, individually and collectively. But it means we have to realize that the opponent, this AI program, we've given it so much power that in essence, if you want to say it this way, has brainwashed us to believe we don't have the power. We don't have the power to change the world. We don't have the power to change our lives. But we do. Because we've been creating from the time of you and me as Adam and Eve. We have been creating by our choices, by our actions, the state of the world. And so starting today, we can change our consciousness. We can decide to act in a different way. We can decide, no, I don't want chaos anymore. I don't want pain and suffering. Use the light inside of us to shine into the darkness, because we have that power. As we spoke 2 weeks ago, time is running out. We came into this world for a certain amount of time to achieve our goal. Like whatever, in business, in school, whatever it is, there are often deadlines. You have 2 weeks to do this, you have a week to do that, you have whatever it may be. We have a deadline, and therefore, it's up to you and me. So let's commit to take greater conscious control of our lives. To pause when we're feeling reactive, when those buttons are being pushed, and ask ourselves, what do I want to come back to me? What do I want to return to me? And therefore, because we're all, when we ask that question, we want love, kindness, compassion, blessings, harmony, and order. Shine the light out into whoever is in that situation. The situation that pushed your button, you pause, you ask that question, shine light out into the world. Don't worry about who they are, what they are, whether they deserve it or not. That's what the opponent's going to tell you. But shine light, because we are building more and greater certainty that light is the only thing will take away darkness. The light is the only source of lasting, eternal blessings. And therefore we know, as we put light out into the world, the light will come back to us in the right time, in the right way, through the right means, for our greatest and highest blessings. And therefore, as we do this together, every day, in every way, more light shining into the darkness, greater restriction over our desire to see oneself alone, listening to the voice of our soul and not the voice of that opponent. Together we can accelerate the return of this world to peace on earth by bringing the angel of life back to appear as the angel of life out of the job of being the angel of death, and therefore living in the Garden of Eden, living in the tree of life, in peace, love, unity, as one unified soul of love, kindness, and compassion forever. God bless. Okay. As I do every week, I want to, thank those of you who are supporting the projects of the center. Make sure, of course, you have a Zohar, pocket Zohar, a book of the Zohar. This is what's called the Sacred Zohar. It's all the Aramaic of the Zohar. And as we all know, the Aramaic letters are just particles of the light of the Creator, or conduits. It's the DNA of our soul. It's universal. So it's not about the language. It's about the light that shines from it. And like we say, only light will take away darkness. So the more we have the Zohar around us, and the more Zohar, light, there is in the world, the faster the darkness disappears, the weaker the voice of the opponent and the opponent itself, that AI program, the weaker it will be, and therefore the louder and clearer the voice of our soul will be in our head. And the more we'll hear the voice of our soul, the ways in those moments to share the light, the faster we remove darkness, because only the light is infinite. The darkness is limited. And we can transform all the light, all the darkness back into light. So support us. Bring people to take the classes so they'll have the understanding of the power of this book called the Zohar. And therefore help us spread more Zohars till there's no more darkness in the world, no more pain, suffering, and death. So I want to thank those of you who have been donating and supporting us. And I encourage you, those of you who are watching, give whatever you can. I just put the link out there. So whatever you give goes to touch the heart and soul of 8.5 billion people. And so we're going to do our meditation. This is one of what's known as the 72 names of God, 72 attributes of the Creator, right? Again, built from the Hebrew Aramaic letters because they are light, the particles of light in this world. Nun, Yud, Taf. Combination of these three energy forces, frequencies of light, manifest as what we call the death of death. Meaning, as we've read, as we spoke about today, turning the angel of death back into the angel of life, bringing a final end to that opponent, that AI program, the angel of death, by transforming it back into the angel of life and turning all of the covers of illusion called darkness, removing them and revealing the truth, the pure, eternal life, light that's within each and every one of us. So just look, let the shapes be engraved in your mind's eye, because eyes are the windows to the soul, and therefore this energy, as you're scanning it, or you scan from the Zohar, is activating the light inside you. So, if I can ask you, sit comfortably in your seat, hands on your lap, feet flat on the floor. Relax by taking a few deep breaths, breathing in through the nose, hold the breath for a moment, exhale through the mouth. Allowing the light force that in physical terms comes from the air, the breath of life. Allowing it to enter in, circulate through from head to toe, and then as you exhale, letting go of whatever tension, stress, blockages you may be holding in the moment. Surrendering to this infinite light within you, completely filling your soul, your being, and infinitely around you. We are constantly immersed in the infinite light. Our job to recognize it and to unblock ourselves. Allow yourself to relax. Let go whatever the distracting thoughts are, focusing on the light in and all around you. Each breath more relaxed, more letting go, with the desire to be a stronger channel of that light. Strengthening your desire to be your 100% pure conduit of this light, manifesting all your blessings and influencing every human being on earth through the spiritual internet to feel the light inside them being awakened as we shine it out together, and therefore strengthening their desire to be like the light and have eternal blessings, instead of giving in to the opponent for short-term, limited, finite blessings that do not last. And so relaxing and returning to your normal breathing. Together we want to envision the Nun Yud Taf above our heads, radiating with the infinite light that we are immersed in. Nun Yud Taf, illuminating with bright light of the endless, the pure light of the Creator, and the power to transform all death, all finite, all aspects of end, to remove it from our thoughts, from our lives, from the world, and allowing the revelation of the infinite blessings and eternal life. So let's envision the Nun Yud Taf entering through the tops of our head, shining its light of continuity, no end to the good and the manifestations of our blessings, strengthening our connection to the tree of life, removing the illusions of darkness and limitation as it flows from head to toe within us. Activating the infinite circulation of light that empowers every cell of our being, spiritually and physically. And allowing the voice of our soul to be clear, to be loud, that we hear it distinctly over the voice of our opponent. Nun Yud Taf, the end of all death, the limitations, the blockages to our eternal blessings. Feel that new life force of the light awakening inside you, that greater clarity, strength, and desire to manifest all your blessings, all your light. So let's take a beam of light from our heart and soul. Nun Yud Taf. The death of death, the death of limitations. And let's shine a beam of that light out from our heart and soul, out to the hearts and souls of our family and friends. Seeing pure light, life force, reaching them, activated within them. Greater clarity, greater connection to their tree of life, to their pure, complete potential of light. And let's see that beam of Nun Yud Taf light extending from them, out of their heart and soul, out to the heart and soul of every human being on earth. Removing the darkness, reaching into their heart and soul, the pure and perfect being of light that exists in every person, every one of us. Awakening and activating more of that power, bringing it to be predominant in their mind, the louder voice in their head. Love, kindness, forgiveness, tolerance, generosity, humility, all the attributes of the light. And that they see clearly, that we all see clearly, the foolishness of reactive behavior, the detriment of connecting to the tree of knowledge, good and evil, reactive behavior. And therefore the benefit of making that extra effort to overcome the opponent's challenge. Nun Yud Taf. Defeating the opponent. Transforming all temporary blessings, short-term fulfillment, into true eternal blessings, fulfillment. And removing the separation, those veils and curtains that separate us individually from our pure and perfect self, and separate people from the unity that is true on the spiritual internet. That we reveal that unity, bringing more and more people every day to be connecting to the tree of life. Consciously listen for the voice of your soul. Be consciously aware of that greater sense of peace, certainty, clarity that you're having right now as you channel the Nun Yud Taf. Together we commit ourselves to behave more light-like, to pause when our buttons are pushed, to ask decide what we want to come back to us is only the light, the lasting blessings, and therefore have the strength to shine light into the darkness, which protects us from darkness and extends the light to wake up every human being on earth to the light within them, and to increase all of our collective desire for the return to the Garden of Eden, heaven on earth state of existence. And with that impressed on our heart and soul, together we'll take one more deep breath to make it manifest, to stay with us from this point forward. And slowly exhale and open your eyes. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your sharing this with other people. Get this wisdom out to everyone, that more people who are actually activating, manifesting this wisdom, this technology, we're accelerating the transformation back to the Garden of Eden. We're accelerating our individual blessings becoming manifest. And accelerating the power of the light force and our connection to the tree of life, guiding and directing every one of us, every moment of every day, to achieve our mission and truly experience the manifestation of all the blessings that are already inside of us. If you have any questions, comments, please write me. You can write me in Facebook or email me. Have a great week. Till we meet again, God bless.